The Nikki Glaser Podcast. The Nikki Glaser Podcast.
Here's Nikki. Hello, here I am. Welcome to the show. It's the Nikki Glaser Podcast. I'm Nikki Glaser. I'm in St. Louis. Brian Frangie is in Los Angeles again. You're back home? Back after the holiday?
Oh,
and then are you going
God.
out again for the holiday back there?
I'm going to Chicago for Christmas to Allie's parents.
That makes sense.
Yeah, the
All
old
right,
switch.
The old switcheroo.
Yeah.
Someone had a tweet that said something about Thanksgiving and Christmas being so close together is fucking insane for how we have to see these people that close together. So I forget whose tweet it was. It was someone.
Last year, I just went
credit.
back home for a full month. I went just back the whole time. And
Yeah, that makes sense. Why not just stay? Christmas is here. And Thanksgiving was yesterday.
Christmas time
Not really,
is here.
but-
One of the best Christmas songs of all time.
I really like Christmas time, but we'll get into that in a second. Noah is here from Arizona. Hey, Noah. Hi. Hi. And we have a special guest today, a really good friend of mine who I don't get to hang out with as nearly as much as I would want to. I feel like if we were in the same city, we'd be we'd be like, I don't know, whenever I would run into you, it just is like so easy to hang out with you. So it was an instant yes when I heard that you wanted to come on the pod and talk about your new special coming up. It's Carmen Lynch.
Yay! Thank you.
Hooray.
Greetings from Astoria.
Greetings.
Oh my
God.
What stop on the? Are you the NQ?
The last on the
Me
end.
too. I was Ditmars.
Yes, you were where? What street?
You can fall asleep. 36th and Ditmars. You could fall asleep on that train and not worry about missing your stop. 'cause
Someone will wake you up.
It'll just hit it.
And
yeah.
it sucks because the stop before stops for like 10 minutes. Do you ever notice that? It's like,
oh yeah.
why can't you stop at the end?
Yes.
Yeah.
I loved that stop. I loved Taverna Kiclades.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And there was a Starbucks that I frequented many times. There's a CVS that's enjoyable.
Love that
I
CVS.
loved that. I like that train. By the way, the NQ is like clean. I like those blue seats. It feels like it's probably my favorite train.
There's
It's
a
still pretty
Staples.
clean. Yeah, there's a.
It's still
Oh no, that's the previous stop, the Staples.
yes, the Staples.
sorry.
Yes.
But
Love that
Nikki,
Staples.
you would die now. They just opened up Burlington. They're putting in a Target. There's an IHOP.
Wow.
It looks like a mall now. It's crazy.
They're not messing around. It was already up and coming, but they've just fucking committed to there's tons of people at the end there.
Yeah.
And now a Target. I would always get scared to go to Targets in New York City because it just seems like it would just be so picked over, so run down,
Yeah.
so chaotic. But I love a Target so much. And I always say that if you get out of a Target without spending $80, you spent no money at Target. If it's under $80, it's zero money spent.
Yeah.
But 80 is what, you have to at least spend 80 at a Target. That's where I feel like, oh my God, I spent less than 80? This
so
was
easy.
I
Yeah.
just won money. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I
you don't
love
even
a
have to go
Target.
into the city now to go shopping. Like if you need something, there's also a TJ
Yeah.
Maxx too.
Oh,
Yeah.
Burlington and TJ Maxx. I mean, and because Burlington, they're more than great coats. I've heard that. Now they do more. It's like TJ Maxx pretty much.
Yeah, pretty
Or
much.
Nordstrom Rack.
They're all pretty much the same. They're just
You feel like you're bargain hunting. You
Yeah.
feel like you are kind of thrifting in a way because it's so much different stuff and you can find good things because some of the sale racks are really disheveled. So there is an element to it that makes you feel like you're combing for good deals, searching through a landfill, which you pretty much are searching through a future landfill. But isn't that the kind of the appeal of the Nordstrom Rack or the TJ Maxx or the Burlington or the Ross Dress for Less is that there is a thrifting element to it.
totally. And I love that you called it Ross Dress for Less and not just Ross.
Yeah, that's I don't go there. It's such an LA. I don't know.
Totally.
I guess someone called it RDFL. Someone was calling it this summer. And I was like, oh, that sounds cool. Yeah, it's those places, and then thrifting just makes your hands feel dirty. So that's where thrifting. My hands feel musty at the end of it, going through so much racks, and then your hands hurt. You get cardio from it. And then going to a department store or a place that just has a couple clothes, if we're talking a Nordstrom that is not you're not digging, you don't feel like you've struck gold when you find something good.
Well, it's so
It's
cheap.
just laid out for you.
It's so cheap that it feels good to go through it. I don't like going
Yeah.
to the expensive places. If I have to go to somewhere pricey, I'd rather just do that Stitch Fix. Do you ever do Stitch Fix?
I did it a couple times, in 2013, where they kind of pick out outfits for you.
Yeah, and then if you don't like them, you just shove them into a bag and send them back.
I had
It's so
success with
nice.
it when I did it. I don't know why I
Yeah.
haven't done it again because I did wear those things for a really long time. That's so nice too because shopping is exhausting. And hell, how often do you open your closet even after like you recently think you spent a lot of money on clothes and you go, I have nothing to wear. It's like it's yeah, it is. Shopping is hell. And Noah, we've talked about how you're like, I don't know how to dress like a woman my age. And I realized like we don't need to. I was realizing like how old you are is how old, and I know people have said this before, this isn't novel, but it's really like how old you feel. Like I talk about I think we talked about on the podcast, or maybe it wasn't, about some woman had a brain injury that like a steel rod went through her brain and damaged a part of her brain that gave her short-term memory. And so she would restart it constantly, and she instantly became an ultra marathon runner because she always thought she had just started the marathon. So if you always think you just start something, your body can go way longer. So much of your mental or your physical fatigue is based on the fact that I've been running 20 miles. I have 5 to go. My body's falling apart. But if you were to have a brain that just, even with your same amount of effort you put in, have a brain that thinks you just started running, you will have more stamina. So I think that applies to aging too. Like if you dress and act young and like actually feel like you're young, you'll kind of look it. Like you'll possess that.
I've seen some old folks dressed young and they look silly.
I
think they're not owning it then.
Yeah. But
They're owning
sometimes
it
it
too
looks
much.
weird. It looks weird to see like a 70-year-old woman at like Forever 21. You know,
Yeah,
it's like
it is.
too much.
Dolly Parton, even, you were just like, oh, honey, that's not comfortable. But
Or what about like a 59-year-old man with a baseball cap, sandals, and like a V-neck who has like children? I just feel like when I see a guy like that, I'm like, man, you're in the wrong decade here.
Yeah, I mean, some people are holding on to
I'll dress like that.
the
FYI.
wardrobe that
Not
they
sandals.
had. Yeah, they're holding on to the wardrobe that they had when they had the most clothes and they're the most comfortable in it. And it was like they felt
I'm
the best
fine
about
with that.
themselves.
I'm not trying to disparage them. I'm just saying it does look silly, but you have to be okay with that. But I am going to disparage any man who wears sandals at any time for any reason, even the beach.
Never. A
Really?
man should never wear sandals.
Never.
I don't care how pretty your
Disgusting.
toes are.
I don't mind flip flops
Oh,
on a guy.
That's
Really?
okay.
Disgusting.
No, that's okay,
Repulsive.
but at the beach, but not like do you ever go like when you're on stage, Nikki, and you look down and the front,
Oh,
the
yeah.
guy, they're wearing flip flops.
Why are they always in the
It's so-
front?
And they put
They put their
their
foot
feet on the
up.
stage
Ew.
all the
Yes.
fucking time.
It's a
Disgusting.
control thing. Like, oh, I
It
can
is
do
a control
that.
thing.
Yeah.
This guy the other day, he like he said some line that was actually kind of helpful. It was like a good tag or something. And I go, I'll allow you to keep your fucking foot on my stage. I was like, you've earned that entitled stance that you already had before you even said that nice thing. But there's rarely a woman putting her foot up on the stage. I gotta
Never.
say.
They talk. Women
Never.
will talk. They'll be like to each
Yeah,
other.
women are so chatty. Yeah.
Yeah.
And to you, last night I had some chatterboxes just trying to help. Or just, I think they were just jazzed about they were just like, yes, girl, like, which is a nice
those are
thing.
the
But I
worst.
think
Happy hecklers.
yeah, but it was distracting, but they didn't know. They were just, and then it ended up being funny because I talked to them. But and I think I insulted one of them because they were both like, I was like, oh, look at this young girl, and then they were both kind of together, and the other one piped up and said something like, we're young. And I go, not you. I go, I was talking to her. And she felt so bad. She was older than the other girl. And I was like, I wasn't looking at you. I'm sorry. I wasn't, not saying you look bad. But
The proportion of men who put their foot on the stage to women is the same as the proportion of men to women in the lineup.
in a line, like in a.
in the show.
And the show, yeah.
Oh, interesting. Possibly.
Yeah, that was a lot of
Yeah.
math. I had to think about that one for a second.
Sorry, I did a proportion.
Carmen, as a female comic, and this sounds like I'm starting out as a joke, but like I'm actually commenting on the question that we get a lot about being female comics.
Are we
My
funny?
answer is always like, yeah, exactly. My answer is always, I never like thought of myself. I only recently thought of myself as like, I'm a female comic. And I guess recently meaning the past 7 years, but I always just was like, I guess I was living under the assumption that everyone viewed me the same that they view male comics. Like I didn't even think of anything different about it until people made it a thing. And then I was like, oh, I guess it's this special thing. And I flipped it into being like, oh, it's nice because there's less of us, so you stand out more. And like there's good things about less women doing it, even though I think that's bad overall. And also it's special because all my favorite comics are mainly female comics. And so I'm like, oh, I'm in a category of the ones I like the most. But what do you do with that question?
I mean, I don't think about it either. I don't know if it's like being in New York and that you're just surrounded by so many comics, but I don't think about it until someone brings it up. And now, especially, it's not even a thing. There's so many female comics. That
Truly.
It just feels like after COVID, like there's a million more comics and a million funnier people. And a lot of them are women.
Yes.
So I don't even think about it.
Yeah, it's a good point. I was having a little bit of an existential moment this weekend with Emil Joaquim, my opener this weekend. We were like talking about like, do you ever think about like you have to like go on stage and like all these people are staring at you and like you're up there and you have to like talk for an hour and like entertain them and how fucking weird it is. And I was like, he said something about that and I go, Emil, I never let that in. Like, I know that beginning of that thought. Yeah. I don't and this is the I think this is the difference between people who look at comedians and go, I could never do that, and comedians. And I'm not saying it's for every comedian. I talked about Fargo last week and how I don't think about that masked man with the hammer. Like, I just put him out of he shows up in my mind and I go, I'm not letting you in because if I let you in, I'm not sleeping tonight. So the same thing with thinking about how I'm on stage talking and everyone is just like wrapped with attention, quiet, staring at me. If I let that in too much, I will implode. That's insane. Who the fuck would ever do that?
No, because once you start thinking that way, you can't get it out of your head. Like if I put a sweater on and then I'm like, what if I sweat on stage? I'm like, forget it, because now I'm going to think about sweating.
Yep. Like the second you realize you forgot deodorant, you start being drenched in it. It's all mental, but I think it is interesting because I think so many people watch comedians and go, wow, I could never do that. That all those people are watching you. Like that's what you get told by people who, you know, your friends and family who go, I can't believe you can do it. All those people staring at you. And you go, actually, I don't know how I do it either because that's fucking it's not that I'm not terrified of that. Yeah. It just, I read something last night actually that, I'm reading this book called Letting Go. And he talks about a fear of public speaking. And he realized he had a huge fear of public speaking. And he realized the fear turned into, I can't. Like he was really just scared of it. So then he started saying, I can't do it. I'm just one of these people that I can't do it. My voice goes away. I start shaking. I'm different than everyone else. And then he started kind of challenging that and being like, is it that I can't or is it that I won't? Because I'm scared of all the things that could happen. And then, which I thought was a really good advice for anyone who's scared of public speaking, he started thinking about how most public speakers are boring. Like his big fear was being boring to someone and having people go like, oh, this sucks. And he's like, when I think of all the speeches I've listened to in my life, most have been boring. And I don't hate those people. They're still alive, living good. Like nothing happened if you're boring. So just do it. And so then he started doing it and just releasing the fear, which is easier said than done. But he just was like, fear is a thing that I'm choosing to focus on. If I release it, it's not there. It's only there if I make it in my mind. So I'm going to let it go and I'm going to do it. Then he started doing public speaking. He got obviously more adept at it and was like, it was easier. And then he started saying one time he had that fear again of being boring. And so right before he talked, he was like, I'm not the best public speaker, but I can assure you, he was getting feedback that he was boring, like his biggest fear. And then he survived it, right? And he was like, okay, I guess I'm a boring speaker, but at least I can do this thing I said I couldn't do before. And I'm boring, but who cares? He literally heard back that he was boring, his biggest fear. He survived it. So then the next time he gets on stage, he goes, I've been told I'm a decent public speaker, but I've been told I am one of the most boring speakers that you'll ever listen to. And everyone laughed. And he goes, the second they all laughed, I realized I had made a human connection with everyone in the room. Oh. And the gift of laughter and being able to incite that laughter made us all one and all connected. And I realized that their laughter meant they were rooting for me. They were on my side, which is always the advice I give about public speaking is that no one wants to see you do bad. And unless there's like an evil person in the back of the room. What? And that man,
Robin Williams.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I had public speaking fears where I would shake and like I had to go in during recess to give my presentations because my parents called ahead and said, Nikki cannot talk in front of people in the classroom. And she won't.
Wow, really?
But even when I'm sorry, go ahead.
No.
Even when you...
That's it, bitch.
Even
That's
when
all I
you
got,
started
Carmen.
I started stand-up though, were you nervous? Like I was so nervous and people are like, I could never do that. I'd be so nervous. Yeah, we were nervous. Like,
yeah, we had to overcome it. It was like the
Yeah.
desire to do it was like
How
that's
do you
standing in the
overcome
way.
it, though?
You just
Do
keep
it over
throwing
and
yourself to
over.
the wolves. Yeah.
yeah.
You sign up. You sign up if you like Noah, you just don't have the desire to be heard enough
that's
to
what it
overcome
is.
it.
Yeah.
Is what I'm saying. Like we all have exactly what you have, but we have this thing of like I need to be heard so bad, or I want to perform so badly that I'm going to overcome this fear of whatever, which you haven't done in certain ways in your life because the desire had been stronger than the fear.
I would
But
imagine
you really
it
just
like
have to do it.
a surgeon. Like when I think of a surgeon cutting into somebody or doing an open heart surgery, I'm like, how the fuck do you trust yourself to do that? How could you dig in to someone's body and do that thing? And then it's just like, well, after you do it like 30 times, it's just like a pile of meat.
They just
Yeah.
have a desire to cut.
Yeah.
You know?
I actually have operated on my mom's corn one time with a razor I
Yeah.
bought
Oh my God,
on
really?
Amazon, a scalpel I bought on
Yeah.
Amazon because I like am obsessed with watching videos of people getting their like foot corns dug out. Like it's
Oh.
just soothing to me, Carmen. It's weird. So I thought, based on me watching all these videos, I thought I had like an expertise, and I cut my mom's foot, just very like nicked it a little bit, and it is still not healed, and it's like 2.5 years later.
Wow.
You guys, it
Oh,
was
God.
bad. I had the confidence of a surgeon.
This is TikTok's problem. Everyone thinks they're confident enough to do anything now.
it was
You just watch a
YouTube's
few.
problem.
Oh, YouTube.
Yeah.
Same thing.
Did you
Yeah, you're right.
videotape it? Did you videotape it and put it up?
No, that would have been good though. I needed like God, if I would have made content out of it.
All of those videos on YouTube where they're doing self-help or how-to, and they're like, you can do it too. All you have to do is follow these steps. You can't do it. Do not
Yeah.
follow the steps. You're going to cut your mom's foot off. Go to
Yeah,
a
it was-
professional.
Until then, man, I was so satisfied though. It felt so good. I there have been because I have obsessions with like digging someone's like wart out. Like Carmen, it's weird, but
That
like, this
I
is just a thing
understand that more. Like popping
Yeah.
something.
No, I'm not into popping. I'm into like a dried out, crusty wart that I just want to like dig off the calloused skin and like
Yeah.
dig it out. It's my obsession. Like if I could pay to go do it, I would. But you need like a medical license. But I swear
Yeah.
to God, there was a fan one time who came to the show
Look
and
at how excited she gets when she talks about this. I love this.
and she was like, she sent me pictures of her plantar wart. Like she was like, I will let you dig this out backstage. Like I don't care. And I was like, I want to. It was almost like I felt like I was cheating. Like someone was like being like, it was like Zac Efron being like, I'll let you fuck me. Like, I'm here to fuck you. And I was like, I want to so bad. It's not that I don't want to. I just can't because I will ruin everything. And
Nikki,
it felt like this dilemma inside me.
You have so many fans. I bet you anything people would line up to let you pop their whatevers. Their
I
warts.
know, but I
their
can't because I'm gonna give them an injury that they'll be walking around with for 2 years. Like I'm not good at this.
Yeah.
Like I need to go learn. I need to do an
You go to
apprenticeship
school.
with a podiatrist.
Yes. That's how people
I
learn
think-
to do that.
Yeah, but I
And-
wish there was like community college courses. Like I don't want to have to go to med
That would
school
be
for
awesome.
this
You
shit.
just need
I
a
bet you-
tube of Neosporin and warm water and,
and some
salt.
super glue.
Yeah.
You're right. Okay.
And that's it.
You don't even
I'm
really know what the
overthinking this.
credentials are of the YouTube person you watch. That could have just been some
No,
person.
they're all doctors. It's Dr.
That's-
Foot Fixer. It's,
That's what they say. Dr. Foot Fixer, you trusted
they're
that?
in an office. Yes, there are people that go in. They talk like doctors. They're like
They've
narcissistic
got
like
the
doctors.
codes.
They seem sociopathic in a certain way.
Those
yes,
are exactly the people you should trust.
100% doctors.
I'm
Okay, we have to
Dr.
take a
Foot
break.
Fixer. I am authorizing you to do surgery on your mother.
How is that name not taken before? Dr.
have
Foot Fixer.
They have never told us how to do it. They are just talking about it because they know that we're at home jerking off to this stuff. Like they know they always do it instructionally. Like this is how to do it if you're another doctor watching, but it's really like, there are sickos at home like me just drooling over you, cutting out this old woman's wart and
Yeah.
her talking about her afternoon. It's fucking sick. But I long for it, that content. We're going to have more with Carmen Lynch and about her 2 comedy specials that are coming out on YouTube, on Mark Norman's YouTube page. One is coming out the 15th, and then the other is, the 12th?
The
First
12th.
is the 12th, is the English version, and then there is a Spanish version coming out the 15th, and those are all on Mark Norman's YouTube
No,
page.
not the Spanish. He's not getting the Spanish one. He's only doing
Tom
the
Segura
English
is?
one. No,
I'm just kidding.
it's going
That's
on
on
a Spanish platform called Filmin.
Filmin.
Filming.
Filming. Oh,
Filming.
amazing. Okay, well, we'll
So,
get into all that when
yeah.
we get back with Carmen Lynch after this. All right, we're back. Carmen Lynch has 2 specials coming out, one in English, one in Spanish. The English one you can check out almost so soon on the 12th. What's the day of that?
That's a Tuesday.
Tuesday? So Tuesday the 12th. Check that out on Mark Norman's YouTube page, and you should be following Mark Norman anyway, so you'll see it once you do that. And then where did you film it?
At the Cellar at the Village Underground.
Nice.
Yeah.
And what did you do? Like, okay, because I'm about to tape a special on the 16th.
Oh,
and so I'm in
right.
like a special prep mode.
Yeah.
Tell me, I'm going to make this about me,
Okay.
even though this should be about you. But I just because I'm like dying. My life is special right now. Was your life a week and a half out of taping your special? Like, is your life like every time you close your eyes, you're thinking about it? Every time you open your eyes, there's something to work on. Oh my God, what am I going to wear? Oh my God, what am I going to do? This joke, but like, how's the order? How am I going to remember
Yes.
all of that? Was it all that?
But it was like the day I booked the date at the Village Underground. So like 6 months before, or like 4
That's
months
when that
before.
started, the obsession?
Well, think about it, because like this is my first one. You've done a ton.
Oh,
so I
you
was
have
like,
albums.
God,
I
that
have
surprises
albums.
me. That's
I
okay.
know,
Yes, you have
I
well,
know.
albums are similar, but yes, special obviously a lot more pressure. It's there's a lot riding on this. There's someone who's producing it. All of those things. Yes.
Yeah, and I wanted to do it before COVID, and then COVID happened. And then I just kind of pushed it. Like, I did a bunch of late nights, and I just was in that mentality where like things just happen. So I wasn't in the mode of like, no, you got to do it yourself. And I kept pushing that back and pushing that back. And then I read The War of Art. Did you ever read that book?
Oh boy, I was in Astoria when I read that book. I was at that
Oh.
Starbucks reading that book.
I think we were
remember.
all in Astoria when we read that book.
Oh my God.
Oh my God. And it was all about resistance. And then I wanted to throw the
Dude.
book out the window because everything he said was resistance I was doing.
Oh,
Like
everything.
every little thing. And I was like,
I
just
remember
do
putting
it.
down the book because I'm like, reading this book is me resisting working.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh, totally.
like I eventually put it down because I was like, now I feel bad even fucking reading a book because I should be working right now. Like, this
Yeah.
is just me trying to create an obstacle from doing what I need to do because of fear. Again, fear.
And then the guilt, like I painted a lot during COVID, and I had that voice that was like, why are you enjoying your life? You should be writing jokes. And I'm like,
Yes.
I just want to paint. Leave me alone.
Dude, I mean, that's the problem with comedy or doing stand-up comedy or any kind of job that you don't leave at work is that when you are not, you could be working on it anytime. So there is never, it's like having kids or having a dog that's constantly looking at you like you just took it for a walk, but it's like, but we could go again. And you go, oh, okay, I'm guilty again, even though I think I just did this. There's never-ending guilt.
Well,
And then if you're not a made person, like you're also just have to constantly be working just to see if you can get paid at all.
Oh my God.
It's like the
yes.
wheels don't stop, and then you go home. I mean, you just leave the room or wherever you are, and you're like, okay, stop. And then you're like, no, it's still going. I'm still thinking about
the
that
guilt.
joke. Oh
Well,
my God,
Carmen, it's interesting to me because I do relate to, it's just been, I guess, kind of have been floating along. I don't have to. I've had that in my life too, where it's like, okay, things are coming in. I was on Last Comic Standing, as were you. Tonight Show appearances, you have Letterman, Conan's, like I'm working you're working regular at the Cellar. Like I'm not like really wanting for like the next thing will come when they email me about it. And I think I was at that point too at a certain point where I was like, oh no, unless you make it, you got to build it if you want them to come. Like
These days, especially.
Or just think
Totally.
they're not coming. They're not coming. Like that was the day where I was like, they're not coming.
They're not
it.
coming.
Just do it.
Just do it. What do you have to lose? Yes.
And then I did the Spanish one because I was so obsessed with the English one. I was like, I need something to just calm me down. Why don't I just do it in Spanish?
Which one did you tape first?
The Village Underground, and then 3 weeks later, I went to Spain and I shot the Spanish one.
Oh my God.
So is the material the same and just one's in a different language, or is it totally different?
It's about I'd say it's about 75% the same.
Can you give me an example of one English joke that you needed to like change the syntax or the words of in Spanish so that it would be funny because it wouldn't have been funny otherwise?
I mean, not at the top of my head, but it would just be more like I flipped the words around, or I had to describe a little bit more. Sometimes like the subtleties or the sarcasm, they don't translate. And also I grew up in Spain until I was 8. So my Spanish is like, that's the first thing I say when I get on stage. I'm like, I talk like an 8-year-old Spanish girl. Like,
Yeah.
I'm 8. So my version of translating is different from
An
like
8-year-old's vocabulary.
Yeah. And they're like, no, we love it. Because I used to be obsessed with like, this is wrong. I need to talk to a Spanish person who speaks like an adult. And they were like, just leave it. It's cute. Like, just talk like that.
There's so many comedians that kind of do in English only acts. They don't use words above a 8-year-old. Great, like you can get by with just the words and be extremely funny. Like Nate's whole thing is being just a dumb guy, I'm kind of dumb, even though he's a genius, and you hear it in the material. He's saying reading stupid. He's using simple words. He's confused by that's a perfect example of someone who is like can still be genius while operating in a quote unquote a little bit of a dumber not that I don't know, he probably does use big words better than an 8-year-old, but like you can still be hilarious within
totally that. And he can get all of America that way, because then he can get the dumb people too.
I don't want to say it, thank you for saying
but it's true. Like he doesn't have
you're
to
more
be
accessible dumb. We can talk about Nate being clean and that's why he's accessible, but he's also
dumb.
appealing to
but it's not that
he's not dumb.
He knows
obviously
how to talk to everyone.
He knows how to talk dumb.
No, he's smart.
He's speaking
like
the
Brian
dumb
Regan
language.
too.
Yeah, and
Brian Regan's whole thing is I'm a dumb guy,
well.
and then he communicates.
I agree. I think that there are sometimes I'm like, I want to use a big word because it just like really says what I want to say, and it just sounds good. I like big words sometimes, not to be like I'm so smart, but then if they're alienating, you can't do it. But I also just trust an audience if they don't know a word to be like. They're not like, is she an alien? Like, she said something wrong. They're just gonna go, that's a word I don't know. It's really funny to me when people hear a reference that's being made in a joke or a word being used, and they like act confused, like, well, what was that? It's like, don't you just know you don't know what that was?
Right.
If everyone else laughed, like that's always a confusing thing to me. I'm like, not everyone gets every reference, and it's hard to make everything relatable. Sometimes it is fun to just have a joke that only certain people might get, and they can go ha, 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 and they laugh like super loud to be like, I know Rick and Morty, and you're like, okay, we got a Rick and Morty fan or whatever.
Well, they don't have to worry about that with me, because I'm not going to use big words in Spanish.
I'm excited to see your English speaking, especially you are just so funny and so you're honest, and like I like that you're just realistic about what you talk from a realistic perspective, and then maybe a little bit of a not even negative, but kind of like it is what it is kind of perspective. What are the major themes coming from this material, and is it stuff that you had been working on since COVID? Is it like, did you find that like, whoa, this is what I guess my question is, because I'm worried about this. Are you saying something with your special when you got done with it where you like, oh, I can see a through line of like, this is what I need to say at this point in my life? I
don't think there's a through line, but it does all connect with the previous joke.
Yes.
And then because it's my first one, it's almost like you realize so much. Your learning curve is so big. Because like I used to not be lazy, but I would just like, I always wrote new jokes. But I would go on the road and just do my hour, but not really have an order. Like I'd be like, as long as I do those 5 jokes, I'm going to do whatever the hell.
No
Never.
order. Anything in between.
Either?
Never. I don't write down literally, Carmen, I don't write down anything. It's a nightmare to plan a special. And I always call it a grab bag when I'm on stage. Like,
yes,
I have the 5 big toys in my bag, in Santa's bag, that I'm going to bring out, 4 or 5. And then within that, I'm going to go other places, and I might go too far someplace, and we might not get to my last toy or something. But there's 5 that I know can save me, and then the rest is a fucking mishmash. And I'm just like, and it makes it fun. It makes it fun, and it's
fun.
It's also lazy.
I know, that's what I was gonna say. Like I realized it, and I was like, oh my God, I was writing it out, and I was like, this is lazy because I don't want to put something together, but it also gives
I
you
don't
the
want to
freedom,
look at it.
But it gives you a freedom.
Have to look at if it gives you a freedom to not look at it. You're saying
it gives you a freedom to be like, oh my God, if I don't have an order, then I'm going to go from mom to therapist if I want to. But then you'll realize
Yes.
like, oh my God, those actually go really well together. Whereas if you had a list, you would have never put mom and therapist together.
Yes. Well, that's why you have to constantly, like, this is the process I'm in right now, is like all the jokes, and this is the order we think they're going in. And Brian is like, I've hired Brian as like my head writer to like help me on my special, because it truly is like I'm trying to write a TV show, and I would never write a TV show on my own, like a whole script. And so I'm approaching my special this time of like, I want everyone's input of like, we see a theme here. Maybe this could go into this. And that is the hardest thing, because I always have had this joke into this joke. And then you never you realize, oh my God, if this came before this, that could pay off so much more. But then you have callbacks that you're like, oh shit, my callback doesn't work now if I put this over there. Now now I have to switch the callbacks. And it's like, it's so fucked. But I will say that I'm really glad that you also operate this way. I think Mark Maron is the only other person that I've heard. I'm sure there's tons more that just kind of grab bag it and don't have a list.
Hold on,
because
more? After realizing that I've always grab bagged it, when I decided to do a special, the alarms went off and I was like, girl, you can't do this. You are not doing this for your special. You need an order.
Right.
Because I will look at someone during the recording. I know I will. I will look at someone, they will throw me off. It'll be like my dentist who actually showed up. So I'm glad I'm right. And then I'm like, I'm going to go blank. So I memorized it like a script, and I realized I came up with so many different lines.
So much more
at the last minute. And now that
when you fucking write it all down and look at it, and you have to memorize it. So then you're looking at the sentences again and you go, oh wait, there's another chance for another joke here. Like, this is kind of,
totally.
The way we work is the laziest way, and we've gotten away with it.
Yeah.
But when people go, Nikki, wow, it's so amazing. You can remember everything, and you don't have notes, and you don't go over notes beforehand. You don't go over notes afterwards. I'm like, it's not because I'm a genius, or like, this is just my artistic way. I found the path of most resistance. Let's be honest. If we're talking about resistance, I found the path of most resistance to actually looking at the hard, doing the thing I fear, which is seeing my material for what it is, and it might not be as good as I think it is, which is the fear.
But also, you've had other specials. So when you're done with your special and it's out there, do you like not even look at that stuff anymore because it's out there?
No.
You still use it, right? Sometimes.
If I'm talking about something similar, and I don't remember really what I put in specials after I release it, I kind of dump it from my mind. And so I've had to ask Brian to go back and watch all my specials, because I won't do it. And I'm like, we just have to make sure I'm not doing any of the same stuff, because I talk about the same themes still of like sex and dating, and I don't want kids, and it's like the same stuff.
There was one
a joke that I was doing that I did it in the last special, but it was like I had just written it before the last special, and now it's like it's better, but I can't do it. But at the same time, there is a line, like in my last special, I say like, I talk to young girls and I'm like, you're gonna age someday. I know you think you won't, and I hope you don't, because I want you to die young. And that was like in my last special, and I'm really making the same point again this time, where I'm like, young girls, I know you think you're not gonna age. Like, it's okay for me to reiterate something if it's important enough, and I found another way to prove it. I don't have a problem repeating premises, but I find though that, I was crying in therapy about it yesterday, because it's just such a stressful time right now, and there's so much, seemingly so much pressure, and I'm glad that you're done taping yours and you can give me perspective on the other side. Because
there's more. Keep going. No, there's more. Keep going. I want to talk to you about something else. Go ahead.
Okay.
Yes, keep going. Sorry.
Post special depression.
Well, crying about it, and I just was like, I keep telling myself that Trump is probably going to win, and nothing matters, and that has been helping me a lot to think about. I'm just using that as an example of like, things aren't good, or like it's another way of saying I'm going to die someday, and this will all be forgotten. So just like ease up on yourself, like not, like. I always think about people who host SNL, and it's like the biggest news of like, oh my God, I can't believe that comedian's hosting SNL. Like, this is their big break. Wow. And then it happens and no one even watches it. Like, it's just like life. Everything seems so fucking big. Even the biggest thing I could do will inevitably be a blip in my IMDb that everyone will forget, including my family and friends.
Will it be in the Deadline article when you die?
Yeah.
And then her 5th special didn't end
But then
very
my deadline
strongly.
article will be pushed down to the bottom and will be in the archives someday of that.
Yeah.
You know, like everything's gonna be okay.
And then thousands and thousands of years from now, people won't even know any individual that ever existed in this time.
I always remember that I will be as remembered as Obama and Abraham Lincoln. We will all be equals in the end in terms of no one on the planet Earth. This will be wiped out someday.
Yes.
And we will all just be bones. Like Kyle Dunnigan always talks about how like most of our lives as humans is this.
Yeah.
In a grave. Like for millennia.
Yeah.
We are like right now we're like bones inside skin and like, but most of our time on this planet in this form is just like this. Like in the ground. And for like
Getting eaten by bugs.
99.999999999% of your existence on this planet is just being still bones.
Or
But
just
think about
nothing.
it. Think about
Being
it.
non-existent.
We don't have kids. So after we die, who's really going to talk about us? Our nieces or nephews?
Carmen,
like, not really.
This is my entire special. Like literally, that's a line from my special. It's like, I got nothing. So, okay, let's talk about, you were saying it gets worse.
Okay, so I thought you did your special and then you were done and you're like, no stress, right?
Yeah,
Then
right.
it's like the stress of editing, which you know. And I was like,
It's
now I have to do it twice
disgusting.
because I got to do it in English
no.
and I got to do it in Spanish.
No.
And then I have my editor in English and my editor in Spanish, the colorist, the sound guy. And I started getting them confused. I was like, is Joe with this one or the other one? You know, all confused.
Oh my God.
It was like, and I'm like, I can never do this again. I can't do 2 at once. That's crazy.
No, you can't do that. That is really what an undertaking now that I'm thinking about it, because when doing one, it's like twins, but also carrying them both. It's like, I don't even, there's no comparison to it with pregnancy, because it's not like it's 2 separate things that you were.
It's 2
like
separate
giving birth
babies.
to twins and then raising 2 babies
Separately in different languages. And then
Oh yeah,
you have to watch them.
You don't got a nanny either.
Okay, you don't have a nanny. And then you have to, like, for some reason, they would come in on the same day. They'd be like, okay, here's the first draft. And then like 10 minutes later, here's the Spanish one. And I'm like,
And then one of those
I-
babies has to go to Mark Norman's house, and the other one goes to
I'm like, can you
Spain?
guys do one week and then one the other? No, they would come in at the same time.
No, because they're not connected.
They're not connected.
They're not
Exactly.
talking to each other.
No.
That's the rub. Is you're the only person that's seeing that these 2 things are being demanded of you at the same
I'm a
time,
single
and you're in
mother
this
of
hell.
these babies. I'm a single
And
mother.
no one fucking relates to your struggle. And yeah,
No one
no, there's
relates.
no one. You have no one.
And then now
And-
it's like they're both coming out, and I thought the Spanish one would distract me from the English one or vice versa. No, I have double the stress. I keep going back and forth like a tennis ball, like, oh, now I'll be stressed about this one or this one or this
Well,
one.
what's the stress now? It's just because it's edited now, and you're just now waiting like
it's
for it to
this-
come out. It's the promo.
It's the
Marketing it.
exposure, like I think it's because I've heard that they get easier over time. You just get used to like, I'm like, what if they hate it? Like, what if people hate it?
That's not possible. That is not possible. And I think that's a fear I've let go of too, because, and I had a little pep talk with my friend Greg Warren last night before my show. And he was just like, this didn't happen by accident. Like that you got this, like maybe, you know, Mark Norman is not going to release someone who's bad on
No,
his, like, you know what I'm
definitely
saying?
not.
Like he is a connoisseur of comedy. So you got to just trust that there's just no way it's going to be bad. You've been doing this too long to be bad.
But you know, when
there's
you
just
put-
no one that does it as much and as good as you that has had that you could not have had the career you had with all the opportunities because
That's a
people
really
will fuck you
great
or
way to
something.
look-
You know, like
That's
there's
a very
just
way to
nice
look at
thing to say.
there's
Thank
just
you.
no way.
Like, do you think
you
Mark-
have to be talented?
But
If
it's not
you
even a
think
mark-
that
Uh-huh.
people are going to hate it, then that means you're saying that Mark Norman makes bad decisions in his
But it's
Yeah,
season.
well,
not,
how
but
dare
it's-
you,
I'm
Carmen.
not saying. I'm not even making it about him. I'm saying that in your brain, when someone
Yes.
gives you something, you're like, "Well, it's your fault. You offered it to me." Whereas you're like,
Yes.
"I'm going to
Uh-huh.
do a thing in English, and then I'm going to do one in Spanish." You know, and then you're like,
Oh.
you're self-doubt. I don't know if you have that, where you're just like, "What am I
Yeah.
doing? Why do I
Oh,
think
no.
I'm this shit that I can do too?"
Well, that's interesting because
Yeah.
if they give it to you, you go, because I have that with like getting it. I go, I've tricked someone, and and the team we've assembled, like my director that's directing my special he's directed the last 12 Super Bowl halftime shows. He like works with Beyonce and Rihanna and U2 on like on one name, like he's best friends with these people and like only works with them, and like he's done one other comedy special years and years ago, but he's just like doing this for fun as a favor because he's friends with my boyfriend and worked with him before. And I feel so intimidated that this guy has to like fly to Seattle when he just got done like with Shakira and J-Lo last year. He's working with Usher on this year's Super Bowl, and he's like talking to me about my gangbang joke. Like I feel like this is like so embarrassing. I'm really struggling with like the people that have signed up for this and have been like, believe in me. Like I'm a fraud. I somehow tricked them. They don't really know what's going on. They've gotten tricked into this. But then there's the added thing that I have experienced before of starting something that you go, I can do this, and no one's asking me to do this. I'm saying that I can do this, and I better fucking do it. And if I don't, I look so bad. At least I can like you were saying, at least I can just say that was someone's bad call. It's not what am I going to turn it down? But this is something that you were like, no, people need to see this.
Yeah.
I'm good. And it's such a risk, but it was absolutely the right move. Reading The Art of War was what got you to that point of going, I need to do this? So tell me the moment.
Well, it was actually, I felt like during COVID, I was getting depressed because there was no action that I was taking, no goal. And then there was a line in The Art of War that was like, not everyone, he was like, not everyone, but a lot of people are on antidepressants because they aren't going through that difficult, like that, go through it. Just go through it.
The fear.
Like and I was like,
the fear.
I just had a connection with that. And I was like, I think that's me. I mean, I was on Zoloft, like low dose, like 50 milligrams. And I did have panic attacks. And I have had one. I had one since I've been off of it. But I mean, as soon as I made that decision, I just felt like the depression. I mean, anxiety came in now, but I could handle the anxiety because now I had to just do the jokes, make the list, get the outfit, But the depression, I was just sitting there like.
No, this is so what I'm reading right now. I was just reading this chapter last night. He talks about, in this book called Letting Go, he talks about how anxiety and fear are way better than depression because depression is hopelessness. It's complete, it's nothing. But if you have fear is the next step to courage. So if you have fear and anxiety, it is a good sign that you have something in you that you need to break through and that you can get to that next side, which is courage. Courage is fear. Courage is fear with like the absence of fear. It's doing something that is going to be painful, but just silencing the fear. That's what courage is. That's what bravery is. And it's one step up above fear, and that's when you break through to actually the good stuff, the high vibe things. Like depression is 0 vibrations, right?
Totally.
Fear is like a little bit more vibrations, anxiety more, and then you got to a place where it's like your depression will lift. It's very interesting to think about all these things that we get diagnosed with and be like, maybe it's my approach to my insecurities and my fears and like all the I can't do that I have, or that which are really I won't because of I'm gonna look stupid, or because all the fears we have. And that's so good that you overcame it. The problem is when you like read that chapter or you listen to that podcast or you hear that motivational thing and you go, I'm putting this into action. You send an email like, we're gonna fucking do a special and here's the idea. And then you wake up the next day depressed and you're like, oh fuck.
You're like, what the hell did I just sign up for?
Yeah, just having that perfect amount of caffeine or like ADD med if you happen to like, there's some times where I've like mixed a perfect amount of like, I watch something hopeful and I have like a just amount of caffeine. I got enough rest and I'm like, I can do anything and let's start a band. And then like I have to go to band practice the next day and I'm like, I am a person that should not, what am I doing? And but I think that original person is the right thing to do. And I love to hear that it's like lifted for you and that one panic attack when you were getting, would you say that's pretty low for you being off medicine?
Yeah, I mean, I can anticipate them because I anticipate the fear of having a panic attack before I have the panic attack.
Right.
And most of the time it's like if I feel claustrophobic, if I'm sitting in a tiny restaurant, sometimes it's happened on a plane. And now I just do breathing. I just sit there and I go, don't talk to me. I'm just going to breathe.
Yes.
And
that's good.
And again, it's like if I'm on medication and no judgments, because, it helped me for 5 years, like I wouldn't have done that because I would have been fine. So now I'm like, don't fucking rush off to on meds, Carmen, again. Just give it a second and do the breathing and exercise. I mean, exercise I kind of always did, but do it more. But the breathing, like you never think about, you need to breathe right. No, it fucking works.
It so works that just like box breathing or just holding, like I breathe in and I just like hold it for 5 seconds. Like if I need to calm my heart rate, I know that breathing in for 4 count, holding it for 5, releasing it for whatever, like that there's just simple tricks, but they're just so much harder for us to reach for.
The damn cold showers. Oh my God.
Oh, really?
Yes. Just turn the shower to cold.
I so am adverse to that for some reason.
No, I mean,
it just
even
feels so
5
uncomfortable.
seconds. The hardest is in the winter or if you didn't work out. If your body's still hot and sweaty and you put it on
then
cold,
it feels good.
It feels so good.
That's a good idea to sneak them in then. I've been going to Pilates just to get in shape for my special because I wanted to wear like a kind of revealing dress thing. And it's kind of like I'm trying to use this as like I'm peaking and like I'm going to dress like hot for the last, like, or at least, maybe one of the last times, like as long as I got it, why not? And I've been doing Pilates and that's been a lot of, like focusing on body, breathing, using muscles I've never used before. It's so psychological and taxing. Like yesterday I went in and I was so tired and I always feel bad going to a trainer and being like, I don't want to do this today. But I talked to my friends who are Pilates teachers and I go, what do you do if your client like is just not in the fucking mood? And they were like, just be honest and say, I don't have a lot of stamina today. Like, let's do other stuff. And we just did all this other stuff that was like mind stuff where I was just literally laying down and I would have to just like, point my foot or something. And it was incredibly hard because it was physically or mentally taxing, but not physically. And I just felt so much better after it because it was better than, I wanted to cancel the whole thing, but it's better than doing nothing. And then I've been doing, some manifestation stuff that has really been working, but are you, when your special was over, were you so excited and did you celebrate it all?
Oh my God. I mean, first of all, I got very sick. I got so sick. I think I was just holding in all this tension.
Oh, right after?
And I got super sick. And then I went to Spain and I was still sick, but I got better the week before. And then after the Spanish one, I got sick again. So I don't know what I was holding in. But I, now my anxiety is the relief. And I'm like, if I could just get used to just not being anxious, I got to let it all go. Like I read something yesterday because yesterday I was going to have a mental breakdown. I was like, attachment is bad. And I was like, ooh, I love that. Just detach from all of your projects.
Everything.
Detach from everything. Because then attachment can be like codependency or expectations or whatever. So just detach, move on. So now I'm like, okay, what's my next project? I'm just going to move on. Like I'm going to.
Okay. Instead
it's
of
good to
worrying
detach
about
after, but detachment is like, if you don't attach to anything, then you're like not even experiencing humanity.
After. Yeah.
Well, it makes sense to detach once you really can't control anything right now. What's done is done. I mean, you can go on podcasts and you can work towards promoting and talking about and getting the word out. But worrying about, is it good? Sorry, it's in the can.
Oh, it's over.
It's like that's like detached from that immediately because no amount of thinking is going to change the algorithm or like
the
change
best time to start a new project is as soon as one project ends.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Or if you're like, if you go out for a job interview or if you're waiting to see if something gets picked up or whatever, the best thing to do is to start a new project. And then the outcome of that thing that you have no control over doesn't matter as much because now you're focused on this new thing.
On the next thing.
That's a good point.
It's kind of like dating. Go ahead.
Yes. Oh my God. No, I was just going to do a cool segue and say we're going to detach from this segment and go to a break.
You can still do
we'll
it.
be back with more after that. Oh, I just did. We'll be right back. We're talking about detachment, or we were before, and you said just like a breakup, like move on to the next thing. I don't think that's a bad thing. Like have your little, if I'm quoting Taylor Swift lore, have your Matt Healy before you get to your Travis Kelce. Like have a little fun. Like get distracted from your sadness.
This is another thing that helped a lot too. And I think this was from like Mel Robbins or someone, who knows.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
But like if you're anxious about something, and because anxiety and excitement are the same energy. So if you say I'm excited when you're anxious, it actually does change it to the energy. It's weird. Like think about what you're and just go, I'm excited. And then you start going, I'm excited. I am excited.
Yeah,
like,
because that is what anxiety is. Like you are getting too excited.
Yeah, it's like you're excited, but it's like negative excitement, anxiety.
That's I love that.
Your
Oh man,
subconscious also doesn't understand like sarcasm or lies. So if you just say I'm excited, it doesn't know that you're lying. And your subconscious will take that information and act on it.
I've been a fucking psycho with this manifestation stuff. Like I have been hilarious. Like because I've always really struggled with looking myself in the mirror and being like, you're beautiful and you're hilarious and you're going to kill it tonight. Like that really makes me just like my friends on my girls chat have been like, just go look in the mirror right now and tell yourself that you're beautiful. Say, I love you, Nikki. I love you, Nikki. And I'm like, I'm not going to do that. Like I know that would help. I'm never going to do it. So my new thing, and I've talked about this on the podcast already, but I went kind of bonanza with it this weekend, is I go like before a show, right, that I'm like not in the mood to do and I'm feeling anxious about because I have to, work on the order and it's not just a normal show anymore, Carmen. I'm reading a set list and I'm making, like, it's just not fun to perform right now. It is once you get in the flow, but whatever. So I'm feeling anxious and I just turned to Anya and I go, isn't it crazy that I'm so worried about this set right now, but it's going to be like the best set of my life tonight? Isn't that so wild that like I manifested this set to be like the greatest set of my life, that everything felt easy and flowed so nicely? It's so weird. Like that's my new and she's kind of like, what? Like I just I spring it on people without them knowing. I go, isn't it wild that, this is a one. I burnt the fuck out of my throat drinking some tea on Thursday night. I like gulped down this tea too fast and my like vocal cords, and like I have a lot of vocal cord trauma and like I've had surgery. So it was like, oh no, what did I do? And I have to tape the special, and I was like coughing and gagging and like I couldn't sleep. I couldn't lay horizontal because I was like, my throat is so damaged. The skin is going to be flaking. I'm going to be coughing up chunks. Like it was burnt. I could feel it. I've never felt this pain in my life in that way. And I was like, you're such an idiot. Why did you do this? And then I was like, wait, just let's try to manifest something because I gotta sleep. I'm in Toronto. I got a 10-hour flight tomorrow. I have to do 2 shows. Like, I don't have time to stay up and worry about this. So I just go, it's so crazy that I burnt my mouth or I burnt my throat so badly. And tomorrow my throat never felt more supple or like young and youthful and healed and like ooey gooey. It's so crazy that my vocal cords like have never felt better after I burnt it. That's wild that this worked, that saying this right now made that tomorrow. It's going to be wild to feel that. And I promise you guys, I woke up the next day, no side effects from it. Did they feel the best they've ever felt? I don't know if that's true, but they certainly were indiscernible from the best they've ever felt. Like I did an injury that was out without question. I was like gagging on water because it would hurt to even drink water. I was choking. I was coughing. I couldn't sleep. As soon as I started talking like that, I just relaxed. I was able to go to sleep and I woke up and had no memory of burning my throat until later that day.
That's so weird.
Just try this shit when you can and do it in like a comical way of like, oh my God, I can't believe tomorrow that guy's going to call me that I like, or whatever it is. Like it's worth a try because it's less embarrassing doing that than saying you are beautiful and your throat is fine, like in the mirror gazing at yourself.
You can get over the self-consciousness of it by being sarcastic and making it a joke and a fun.
Yes.
Because your subconscious doesn't know the difference anyway. So if you want it as a comedian, be like, oh, tomorrow's going to be the best day of my life. I can't believe tomorrow is the best day of my life and it's happening tomorrow. Isn't that crazy?
I'm being incredulous about the truth.
And your subconscious is like, oh, it really? It's like a dog.
Yes, because that's how I talk normally to myself. So I'm tricking my subconscious into actually thinking that's true, because I do like that your subconscious is like autistic and like has no sense of irony, no sense of sarcasm, takes everything at its word. I think that's very adorable.
Yeah. It's like a dog. If you go to your dog and you go, do you want a treat? You want a treat? They'll get excited for a treat. But if you go, do you want a treat? Well, actually, maybe that's not a good.
Wait, that's the opposite of it.
No, that's the opposite.
Final thought.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, so Carmen, your special's coming out. Everyone has to watch it. I mean, because your fear now is that no one's going to watch it. Are you fearing of like there's not going to be enough views?
Yes,
or
like
the comments are going to be shitty.
Totally,
or what?
because I'm like, I don't know, who's going to troll on YouTube. or who's going to say like, your Spanish sucks, bitch. Go back to America.
Well, that might happen,
you know?
but first of all, I would. Could you get to a place where you don't read the comments? Is that
Oh,
gonna?
totally.
Is that even?
No, that's
so
fine.
you might not.
But yeah.
Okay.
I'm gonna.
Yeah, I think you should not read the comments. And also, I know for a fact that I'm not going to say that because the people that do troll and go like, women aren't funny. Let's say that Mark Norman fans that might think that, they always pick like one girl to like so that they justify themselves as not being, incels that just hate women. So they and you're you should be a one girl that everyone goes, clearly women are funny. But they're gonna give that to you because he's given the dumb ones who just follow whatever he says. And this is not just saying Mark Norman's fans. I love Mark Norman, so I'm a Mark Norman fan. I'm just saying any kind of like these guy comic fans that are like that might hate women. They usually like one, and it's gonna be you. It really will, because first of all, you are as good as any comic that they would ever hold you up against, if not better. And you also there's no gimmick with you where you can like throw like, oh, she's just trying to do this thing. Like you really are just a comics comic. You're a fucking you're just one of the best. And so it's without question they're gonna love it.
I'm gonna
no
record
question.
that. I'm gonna listen to that every day just because you make me feel so much better.
It really is true.
Yeah.
It's just
Thank you.
every comic knows you're great, and like we just all can't be wrong. And so whether the audience will get that because they'll follow our lead, and like the savvy ones tend to like the comics that comics like. And but I would have those same fears whenever I do anything on a male comics platform.
But do you ever?
And I don't mean to put in fears in your head, but like I always fear those kinds of fans.
Do you feel like now that you've done so many specials, though, that all those fears just get lighter and lighter, or do they just stay?
You know what I've realized is that no, they stay. Each time it feels like this is do or die. It always feels like the first time. Like it. I will say that, but the aftermath of like how it's received. Way less pressure than I thought it would be, and things have not always been a fucking huge big splash for me in terms of my specials. I mean, they've come and gone with fanfare, without fanfare, and it's all kind of felt the same.
Yeah,
it really, the amount of times I've survived putting something out that I put so much work into, and it wasn't watched a lot, or it just didn't strike a chord. I didn't take it personally, and I hope that for you, because I think. It surprised me that I didn't, but I think you won't too, because first of all, everything's oversaturated. There's too much to watch, so you can always have that in the back of your head of like, it just didn't cut through, and like it just and it's all the hard work is done, and it's like you can't control it, so you can kind of let that go. So I'm happy to say that however my special does, I know that I'll be okay, even if it fucking tanks, because I know it's good, because there's no question it's funny, because I do have that in right now as I'm talking to you, doing comedy 20 years, you can't, at the rate of doing it, if I was bad, it would be impossible.
Remarkable.
Almost.
It would actually
really,
be very impressive.
I've seen it happen.
Damn.
I've seen it happen. I've seen not 20, but maybe 15, 10. I've seen people be like,
15,
wow,
10, sure.
You're still not funny at all?
But 20, you're not bad at, no one has been doing it 20 years and doesn't do a good job. And if you actually care about being on the cutting edge and writing new material, which I have done, then there's no question I'm good. I might not be as good as I want to be, but there's no question I'm elite at this.
I can come up with some names. I can definitely come up with some 20-year names. I'm not going to say them on this pod.
Are they people that are trying new material?
There are people who
and that are actually trying to progress, or are they relying on the old act?
You probably don't know their names.
Sure.
I don't know who they are, but if I pointed them out, you'd be like, that guy hosted for this thing in 2009, and he's still doing that.
But he's been doing the same act.
And he's probably a big fish in his
progressing.
little pond, and everything's fine.
Or he's
and
a medium-sized fish in a very, very big pond. Yeah, I think I can name a few that are still somehow bad. But no, you're right, Nikki, about are they doing the same material? A lot of them that I'm thinking of are doing the same material over and over again for 20 years. And
I can think of
it was bad the first time they did it, and it's still bad. And they never adjusted.
Yes, but I know what you're saying. Now that I'm racking my brain, I can think of people that have been doing 20 years, and I don't like their comedy. I don't like what they're doing. But I cannot deny that they do have an audience that does like it, and they have mastered the skill of performing, which is a skill in and of itself. So whether their jokes are bad, they do deserve, like, there are 20, like, if we're talking about someone who just got a special too soon after doing it however many years, 7 years, you're going to see like this person is out of their element. But 20 years, you deserve, whether your jokes are good or bad, you deserve to be up there because you're a good performer. That you've been on stages for 20 years. There's something in that.
Yeah.
But, me and Carmen also have jokes. So there's just no question, Carmen.
That's one
This
of
is
the
gonna
most
be great.
exciting things, though, is to just put that shit aside, like the material,
Detach.
and just write. There's so much new stuff and stuff that I didn't even put in this special because I waited so long to do a special that I'm like, I already have so much for the next one.
And now you're going to go on tour off of this thing. Your numbers are going to go up there. That's going to be so fun.
No, it's amazing that her numbers have gone up already, and that the tour is all selling out.
Oh my God, Carmen! I can't believe that
Can you
this
believe?
has led. I can't believe you are the one of the most watched news specials on YouTube of the year, and the most critically acclaimed. I mean, I can believe it because we talked about it, but it really is. It just. Finally, it's so nice to see that finally people are seeing what has obviously, the Lettermans and the Last Comic Standings have acknowledged here and there, but it's happening on a wider scale for you.
But
and
also,
people, comedy aficionados are now like, know your name. It's a household name.
But also that I am the most watched American comedian in Spain is crazy.
Oh,
that-
yeah.
Right?
That is such
Look at
an
Noah.
accomplishment. That is so cool.
That's not
and
even
that
a
you have this
manifest.
whole.
That's
that is-
undeniable.
There's no like.
There's
who
no
are
way
you
that
competing
doesn't
with?
happen,
I mean,
yeah.
we might not know the scene. Carmen's probably more tuned in. There's probably a lot of Americans they like over there.
Spain.
Oh my God, it's so
Who do
funny.
they love?
Yeah.
First of all, they love, the other day I did a ton of Spanish podcasts. I just got back from Madrid. I had to go from Madrid to Nebraska. That's why I haven't slept and I'm wearing these all the time.
Oh my God.
And it was so funny. One of the podcast guys was like, pero me encanta Bobby Lee. Bobby Lee.
Oh, wow.
yeah.
And it's like,
Yeah.
you have to go like, who? Oh, Bobby Lee.
Oh, Bobby Lee.
Oh, Bobby Lee.
Yeah.
And then this other podcast, they were like, como en el cellar. And I go, the cellar? The cellar.
Whoa.
It's fun to do.
Because the C is, TH. So
I
it's
love
like
that.
the
I
cellar.
love
Oh,
THCs.
fella.
And I was like, oh, the cellar.
Bella. Oh my God, Bobby Lee. Well, Bobby Lee they have good taste.
I was
Bobby
They love
Lee's
that.
expecting,
Oh,
like-
no, Mark Norman. They were like, Mark Norman?
Wow.
And
That's awesome.
Yeah,
Okay.
it was pretty
Well, they're
funny.
gonna love you even more. But Mark Norman doesn't speak Spanish, so they're gonna fucking eat this up. This is so exciting. I'm so happy for you, Carmen. What's the
Thank
name of your
you.
special?
The English one is Queef Week. And which Mark immediately loved because you know how he loves queefs.
He loves
Yes.
that. I picture him. Yeah, I can't believe he hasn't named his special that yet.
And then the Spanish one is just en español because I wanted to make sure
En
people
español,
knew
yes.
this is not my language. It's en
Perfect.
español.
Yes.
Ah.
Okay. So Queef
so-
Week and
en
Espanol. Check it out on Mark Norman's YouTube page. That is be on the 12th. That's Tuesday, the 12th.
9 p.m.
And then,
Eastern.
Filmin.
9 p.m. Eastern. Set your alarms. And then if you speak Spanish on the 15th on Filming
Yeah.
on YouTube.
No, Filmin is like a Netflix, but it's only in Spain. So it's
Oh.
Filmin is the platform.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Congratulations, girl.
Thank you.
Get
Thank
some
you
rest.
so
Thank you for
much.
doing this podcast.
Oh my God,
I love
are you kidding? I love you.
So good to
Thank
catch
you,
up. I can't wait
guys.
till we can run into each other again and
I
just like
know.
complain about life more.
We'll do
'cause you're the best. All right. Bye, Carmen. Thank
Bye.
you.
Thanks again, guys.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
All right, that's it. I'll see you on tour coming up. I'm going to be at Brea with Brian Frangie, and then Spokane, and then Seattle for my special taping, which I hope you guys can make it to. And then December 30th and 31st, I'm going to be in Denver for those shows, so come out to those as well. That's it for us. Don't be good, and just watch Carmen on December 12th. Queef Week on Mark Norman's YouTube page.